Fine. Now listen. Before we get started, before I speak in front of the crowd, I like to level set. And what I mean by level set, that's checking the pulse of the room. So, if you don't mind, I need you all to join me in a moment just to be still. And also, be intentional about what we're feeling in the moment. So if you have anything in your hand, do me a favor, not your phones, but if you have anything else in your hand, do me a favor, just put it on the table. Now, I need you to take your hands and just place them in your lap. Now, I need you to remove your shoulders from your ears. I want you to unclench your jaw. And now I want you to remove your tongue from the top of your mouth. Now, you might not admit it to me, and you might not admit it to the person next to you, but how many of you recognize that your tongue is actually at the top of your mouth? Good. Now, the reason why I wanted to do that is one of the things I learned in my healing journey is I have a tendency of holding stress in some of the most unusual places. And for me, that's in my shoulders, that's in my neck, and that's in my jaw. How do you feel?
All right.
Now, let me ask you all a question. What do you think when you see me? Well, I'll take that. Thank you. Well, throughout the years when I asked that question, some of the things I've heard is, yeah, that's a black man. He probably was an athlete. I've even heard that I look like a young Lawrence Taylor or Ben Reynolds. I've even heard that if you really look at me from an angle, I look like Morris Chestnut. But here's something I've never heard. I've never heard, Sid, you look like someone who has 3 degrees plus 20 plus years of professional experience. I've never heard someone say, Sid, you look like someone who's healing so that your children wouldn't have to. Let me take it a step further. You know what else I've never heard? I've never heard someone say, Sid, you look like you've been diagnosed with bipolar depression and suffer from severe anxiety. I'm gonna take it a little bit further. I've never heard someone say, Sid, you look like you survived suicide. Appreciate that response. But the point I'm trying to make here is, mental health is not how they look. It is not a one-size-fits-all. And even though the term is universal, it shows up different in each of our lives daily. In fact, statistics show 1 in 5 Americans suffer from some type of mental health challenge. That's like saying, everybody at this table. Let me take you all on a quick journey. There was this cute little boy born 10 pounds, 15 ounces to a 17-year-old single mom in Brooklyn, New York. All she knew was how to survive and make ends meet. Sounds relatable, right? But then, of course, she's going to teach that young boy how to survive, how to make ends meet. But she also teaches him how to create walls as opposed to boundaries. She also teaches him not to take crap from anyone. You see, he comes from an environment where he's taught to man up. Stop crying like a little girl. From an environment to where they say, the more you cry, the less you pee. Let me ask you something. How many of you have heard, stop crying before I give you something to cry about? How many of you have heard, what happens in this house?
Stays in his house.
Okay, I like that. Now, this young boy grows up. He's impressionable. He succumbs to some of the influences in his neighborhood, not so favorable to be so young. In fact, before the age of 15, this young boy is exposed to drug overdose. He's exposed to homicide. He's exposed to suicide. He's exposed to domestic violence in the home. Imagine the type of pain and trauma that can cause any little boy, especially if he has no one to talk to to about it, or he's yet to learn the vocabulary to match the emotions that he's feeling. Now let me fast forward a little bit. It was 2017. This young boy loses his father. By far the hardest thing he's ever had to endure emotionally. It felt as if a Band-Aid was ripped off of all those childhood wounds and traumas, and he's losing control. He lost sight of his whys. Then he started to question, why am I doing this? Why am I waking up every day to feel the same exact way? Why don't anyone understand me? Why am I here? Now, like many of us, when we're feeling sick, what do? We go to the doctor, right? But for him, he went to Dr. Google. Now, I see your faces, but let's be real. How many of us, as soon as we feeling sick, we go to the Google or WebMD? WebMD is a monster. You tell me all type of stuff, right? You agree? So, his doctor now teaches him or introduces him to new words like anxiety, depression, PTSD, trauma, suicide. So this young boy takes this information his doctor gave him, and he takes it to his mom, the first person he learned to love, the person who raised him, the person he feels emotionally vulnerable to. But then, guess what his mom said? His mom said, boy, get the hell out of here. I didn't raise you to be like that. Everybody feels like that. I've been feeling like that since you was a child. You wasn't easy. She even said, she even said, boy, we grown, right? Boy, get the hell out of my face. You looking for attention. That broke that little boy's heart. This is the moment that little boy started to experience suicide ideations. This boy first became numb to everything that he was feeling and experiencing. He just became lazy, eating everything, gaining weight, lost friendships, relationships, job. And then he started to accept the fact that this is really how he feels and no one will ever understand it. I can't keep feeling like this. But there was no plan. Months later, after getting no help, still no one to talk to, he then feels a sign of relief. But when I say relief, he feels relief that he made his mind up that this is enough is enough. It's time to end it. And now he officially has a plan. Now, let me take you to March 8th, 2018. This young boy now has a plan. There's something about this day. This young boy kept getting phone calls from friends he hadn't spoken to in years. Very strange, weird. But he continued to ignore it. This young boy buys a new car, got fly, appreciate the comments from earlier, and he starts to drive down I-95 in Maryland, going 140 plus miles an hour, car shaking. But his phone rings. And like earlier, he tried to ignore it. For some reason, he answered it by mistake. Guess whose voice it was? It was his daughter. And his daughter literally just said, Daddy, what are you doing? Come pick me up. Car slows down. This boy pulls over to the side of the road, and he just starts crying. And I mean, he's bawling, and he's bawling, and he's bawling, and he screams, ah! This was the moment that boy realized that God has a purpose for his life much larger than what he's going through. But this was the moment that that boy decides to heal the boy so that the man can show up.
Yeah. Okay.
The man is now starting to define himself, so guess what he does? He goes back to the doctor, Dr. Google. But this time he researches therapists in my neighborhood. And what was so challenging about this, if any of you have ever been to, how many of you by show of hands have been to a clinic, a licensed clinician? So you understand, to start, it's not always easy. The first issue he had, no one looked like him. you've been to therapy, you've quickly learned that therapy is a lot like dating. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And you're probably going to have to go out 2 or 3, maybe 4 times before you find someone you feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable with, right? So, quick story about my therapy experience, about his therapy experience. Y'all know about it, right? His first therapist didn't work out because this gentleman tried to give him too many relatable stories. Quickly understood he didn't get it. If you're from where I'm from, you can feel it. You can tell somebody that they're real about it. They're just doing a job and checking boxes. The next therapist, white lady, however, she lacked the cultural competency that he needed in that moment. Then he went to his third therapist, who he realized not only does he need someone who looks like him, not only did he need someone who looks like him and had the cultural competency to relate, he also needed someone who understood childhood trauma, which led him to meet Dr. Baptiste. Dr. Baptiste was a phenomenal therapist that he really meshed with. It almost felt like he was dating her because he was so excited to see her weekly. And then they're going through this for months, and then the doctor lays a bomb on him. His heart was broken. It felt like he lost his girlfriend. She said, "I can't see you for 30 days. He was devastated. Why? And then he quickly learned he needed time to practice and implement all of these exercises that they've been doing over these past 6 to 7 months. And then she said, "You've been lying to me. Hurt me even more. Like, girlfriend's really hurting me, right?" But she wasn't lying. This man was lying to his therapist where not only was he going to her to feel relief, but not only was he offloading, he really wasn't unpacking the trauma that he was experiencing. He's telling her stories, but he's not making himself out to be the victim. He's talking about the trauma, but not how it affected him. So she introduced him to journaling. By show of hands, how many in here have ever journaled? This man quickly learned that journaling was a safe space. It allows him to take his deepest and his darkest emotions and put them under a microscope, where it's just him, his thoughts, his pen, and his pad. Absolutely no judgment. Then she gave him another exercise. Whenever he felt an emotion, he was to document the experience. Document the experience, but write it unapologetic. Mindfulness journal.
While you're sitting here.
Write, don't think. Don't worry about those periods, those comments, those grammars, or even if the sentence makes sense. Then you write this every single day for 7 days and let's see how you feel. But don't reread what you wrote until the 7th day. Now, it might sound weird, but let me tell you what this has done for that young man. It gave him a blueprint to overcome, or at minimum, understand the emotion that he's feeling. Think about it. Sunday, I'm pissed off. It's not going right. Monday, first day of work, I don't like it. Tuesday, me and my frat, we go to the news. Me and my frat, we go out for drinks. We're handling our business. The next day I go out for a date with my girl. The next day I go somewhere with my daughter. Guess what? I'm no longer thinking about what I was going to do on Monday, but I'm documenting my experiences. On that 7th day, when he rereads what he wrote, he now sees the game plan to get himself back on the line. Now, I say this to say, if anyone's journaling, journal before you understand the dangers of journaling. Let me explain something. Journaling without direction can be dangerous because you find yourself hoarding information about yourself, hoarding negative information. This is what inspired him to write his first book, to be the first change he wanted to see. He wrote a book called It's Okay Not to Be Okay, which is a guided mental health, workbook, which focuses on 10 areas of your life that interconnect and help you walk through your mental and emotional wellness. Now, I want to challenge you all to a moment of grace. If you don't mind, please pull out your cell phones. Please. And while you're doing that, I want you to think about who your strong friends are. Now, I want you to text your strong friend 3 things. First, ask them, how are they feeling? Followed by, tell them that you're thinking about them. And lastly, tell them that you love them. Now, if you haven't picked up on this by now, I'm that young boy that we was just talking about.
For real?
But I'm also the man standing in front of you who survived suicide. I'm also the man in front of you who's advocating to not just be an advocate, but also a change agent, using my story as an example. I am that man who needed someone to check in on. So again, my challenge for you is the next time you meet somebody new, start a curious. Be kind, because you never know the battles that someone is facing. And you all look amazing, and if no one's told you this, I hope you all have an amazing evening or night. The choice is yours. Love is love, and I love you.